This is one of the demonstration problems in chapter 6. This is the problem where a frequency distribution and histogram is created. The author has shown in the book how to use the template that he makes available to students. So rather than using that, I'm going to show you how to use the Toolpak in Excel for histograms. But I will go ahead and follow essentially, not quite, but essentially the same format in terms of that author has used eight classes for the data to create this histogram with 8 bars. So I have copied the data values in here, and we will use this to, let me add a row here. Okay, so here is the data, and to start our analysis we need to compute the minimum, maximum, and the class width. So the minimum is minimum of all the data, and the maximum is the max of all the data. So 10.5 and 10.9. Now class width is how do I say this? Class width is the difference between one class upper limit to the upper limit of the previous class. So we compute it as the difference between max and min, or the range in the data. We compute the range. So that would be equal to this number minus maximum minus the minimum. And then we divide that by the number of classes that we're going to use in our analysis, which I will use 8 because that's what the author had used. So we can see that the difference is the class width is 0.05. That means from the upper class of the from the upper limit of the first class to the upper limit of the second class, there should be about 0.05 difference. Now sometimes we have to adjust that. Let's go ahead and see if this is going to work. Before we start, let's decide what's bins. A bin is the upper limit of a class. So the bins that I want to identify for the classes are let's start with 10.5, and this way I can be sure that the first class includes or has a spot where the minimum value can be placed in. Okay, now the second upper class, or the upper class of the second upper limit of the second class, is going to be equal to that number plus my class width that I computed, but I'm going to fix the cell reference, and then I'm going to copy that down. Oops. And you can see that for 8 classes, the upper limit of the last class is 10.85. That's not going to be good because our maximum was 10.9. So this class width of 0.05, even though that rule of thumb is a good one, was not good enough to include all of our values into this schema. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change this 0.05 to 0.06 and see what happens to the bins. Okay, now the upper limit of the last class is 10.92, so that's wide enough, and it will include our 10.9 maximum value. All right, so now we're ready to use our analysis Toolpak. So go to Data, Data Analysis, Histograms, and say OK. Now the let me erase these. Okay, so the input range is all of the data. So I'm going to highlight that, or select that. The bin range is over here, from here to here. And notice I included the label bins, so I'm going to check off the label. If I did not, then I should not check that off. And then the output, I want it to be placed right over here. So with that, I'm going to these are my chart options. I'm not going to do the Pareto chart. That's for a later chapter. But I'm going to do the cumulative percent and chart output. Or actually, I'll just do the chart output so it matches what you have in your book. And Excel will create this. It'll always give you another more class than you had specified, just in case you didn't have wide enough classes to put the last item in. But remember, I made sure that we wouldn't run into that problem when I changed the 0.05 to 0.06. All right, so this is the chart. This is the histogram. And these right here, these are the bins are upper limit for each class. Okay. I hope you found this helpful. You can study this and see what we're dealing with. So it seems like majority of the data values are between 10.63, which is right here, here, and here. From 10.63 all the way to about 10.86, because remember the 10.8, I'm sorry, to 10.8. And the counts are over here. We can make this a little bigger so that it's more user friendly to the eye. All right. Thank you. I hope you found this helpful.